that I'm not live. I'm not sure, but I'm gonna still make an attempt to make this good. So, you guys, does anybody have children? I want to know how old are your children, and I also want you to engage with me during this discussion because our kids are having some really, really hard times out here. And I think as parents, we can do better. So, for anybody who doesn't know me, my name is Reese Roberts. And this podcast is called Entertain the Thought. Now, we talk about consciousness in the Black community on this podcast. And I want everybody to sort of keep that in mind as we talk, because what I like to do is to make connections to human evolution, to make connections to the science of human consciousness. And so, as we do that, I want you to just get involved in the conversation from that perspective, if you can. So, one of the things that I wanted to hit on today about parenting was really about, oh my goodness, the ways our children are being affected by the environment in their mental psyche. So, um, you and I know that a person's environment is heavily involved with how they evolve. The environment, there's the whole nature versus nurture debate where we're talking about how a person's environment might actually affect them. And now we're starting to realize in the age of information that this can have mental effects. Okay, your environment can definitely have mental effects on who you are, what you will accomplish, how you will think, who you will interact with, what your achievements, what you will aspire to, and all those things. So I want to dig a little deeper into how we are approaching the process of raising our children in this new age. Now, I also want to talk about the fact that society is set up in a place, society is set up as a place where hatred and individualism has more of a voice than love and collective consciousness, or what we would call community, something to that effect. So our children are in a social environment where it's a because people hate them. There are people who hate our children based on what they look like, the same way they hate us based on what we look like, what we look like. And my concern with that is that these children are being sort of misled and misguided by that energy. To feel like you are good to be copied, to feel like you are good to be appropriated, to be good enough for to be used, basically, is what I want to say. But not to be good enough to be loved. That takes a lot out of a person. It takes a lot out of your energy. It takes a lot out of your self-worth. It takes a lot out of who you think you are and what you think you can be. And so, as parents, I know for a fact it's going to behoove us to actually serve these children in a way that they understand that they are not hated by their own. They may be hated by others, but they're not hated by their own. And that's even a far stretch to sort of conceptualize, because even we have self-hatred amongst ourselves in our community. And so it's very difficult for the children, I believe, to be able to draw a line, and to say, well, this is where the spectrum of love is in the society, and this is where I fit. Now, as parents, we all want to believe that society is not going to offend our children in such a way that it's going to take anything from them. But we have to understand the reality of the situation is that we're in an environment where we have so much hatred and stress and oppression on our shoulders that our children are suffering from it too. They're not exempt. And one thing I want to say about the character of these children, though, as we prepare them, as we first of all, we have to know that our children are looking at us. We have to know that they are watching and they are learning, and the thing giving to them is actually being given to them not by intention in a lot of cases, but just by simple observation on their behalf. The children are watching what we're doing, and they're learning by the way we lead as an example. And it's one reason why I want to talk about this with y'all today, because I think that's concerning for a lot of reasons. But I also think it's a great thing if we know how to turn things around in society for ourselves. These children, they're watching us, and they're far more advanced than we were as children. When they're looking at us, they're not just looking at what we're saying versus what we're doing, but they're also looking at how it's affecting us. They're looking at further down the line. These children are looking at the future because I believe they understand that they are the future. And what's so beautiful about children is that when they are looking into the future, what they're seeing is themselves and how the roles will play out. They're looking at what society is right now and what they want society to be. I believe that's the reason why a part of their character and a part of their value in society is the rebelliousness of their spirit. I believe it's a true virtue that these children are rebellious in the way that they are rebellious, because it's going to help us to tear down antiquitous structures in our society. It's going to help us to tear down the things that we thought were working for us, but not necessarily working for them. So if we have an opportunity to show the children at some point, okay, listen, I know I've been looking this way, but this is how it's really supposed to be in the future. If we can give them insight in things from the past. As a 31-year-old woman, I've even asked my elders to take me into the past so that I can see what it was that they were doing. What were their experiences? What were their struggles? What were their successes? I want to know about all of it, because as a younger person, I also insert myself into a future where I'm actually making a difference in ways that I can discern that differences need to be made. And for myself, I value the rebelliousness in my spirit. I already know at some point rebellion is going to be the thing that saves us, because look at what we're rebelling against and look at what our children are rebelling against. We want always to groom our children to be we always want to groom our children to obey in this society. But I differ from that perspective. What I feel is that we should be teaching our children how to responsibly and ethically rebel. Because look at what our society is. Look at how our society has defined our children. We need to make sure that they know and understand that when you are righteous, that definitely does not mean that you obey. Okay, if you're going to be righteous, the first thing you need to do is learn how to ethically tear shit up. Okay, how to ethically shake it up to the point where you can reconstruct whatever it was that you have deconstructed in your rebellion. And if you are ethically rebelling against something that is not serving you, then you are more righteous than those who go along with the obeying that's being sort of brainwashed into their mentality. If you're going to simply obey, you need to learn what to obey. And everything else, you have to learn how to be rebellious in your thinking, not necessarily in your actions. And so parents, I want us to talk about this, because our kids, I'm not sure that they're getting that down to a science in the ways that they should. I'm looking at children being rebellious against themselves. I'm looking at them rebelling against things that are actually going to propel them in life. I'm looking at them rebelling against wholesome things and things that are actually going to edify the future instead of rob us from the inheritance that we're looking for from the future. These new age children are definitely looking for answers. And I want for us to be well equipped in giving those answers to these children. I need for us to be well equipped in how we're preparing them, because what does it mean to prepare a child to live a healthy life in a society full of hate? How are we going to get these children to see, first of all, love in other people after they've seen love inside of themselves? Okay? If we are teaching them self-love, we must demonstrate self-love. And like I said, they are observers. I wrote a status on Facebook the other day that said we would not have to tell our children as much if we showed them. It's just like when you go on your job and you're in training and somebody could be sitting there reading the whole training manual to you verbatim, word for word. You could be taking notes and highlighting stuff word for word. But until they sit down and show you what they're talking about, you don't get it. You can't perform the task. You can't execute the mission because you have no idea how to emulate or how to embody the concepts that are being given to you. You know our children are no different. If they're looking at us for morals and ethics and we're only telling them how to be moral, or we're only telling them how to be ethical, but we're not displaying the behavior, these children are not going to get it. They're not going to get it. We're not going to be any further ahead than where we are right now. If we're consistently forcing our children to obey every single word we say, or else they're going to be beaten, what else does that remind you of? Slavery. Teach your child how to be respectful in their rebellion. Teach your child how to rebel ethically, so that if they have a deeply rooted passion, a deeply rooted purpose, that they know that if I'm going to rebel, I better be rebelling based on what's inside of my soul. I'm not rebelling because I want to get attention. I'm not rebelling because I want to get ahead. I'm not rebelling because I'm looking for a way out. I'm rebelling because I'm looking for a way in. I'm looking for a way into this picture of the future. I'm rebelling because I want to be active in the building of the future. I'm rebelling because I want to be satisfied in what I actually produce out of my life. Our children have to know how to do that. And if we're not showing them, unfortunately, I don't believe that they will be able to get it in a way that is effective. And that's what I'm looking for out of these students. And I'm calling them students because, first of all of us are lifetime learners. You're learning throughout the entire course of your life. And so these students are in a sort of a double learning phase where they're learning arithmetic, they're learning curriculum, but they're also learning life lessons at the same time. And so with us, we must be able to let them know what those life lessons are. We may not be able to give them the curriculum. There are professionals that are designated for that purpose, but we have to be able to know that we have life lessons to give to these students, and that as we're learning from our lives, we have to be unashamed of what we've learned and how we learned it. It's like giving parables in the Bible or giving analogies in a story. Storytelling is extremely valuable in how we teach and how we pass on our culture, how we pass down our wisdom. If we're not giving these stories to our children from our own memory banks, from our own hearts, from our own souls, they're not going to understand the concept of what we're trying to teach them in these stories. We must be able to humble ourselves and give to these students. Give them an understanding where they know I'm not here to control your thinking. I'm not here to control your mind. I'm not here to control your mouth. I'm not here to control your actions. I'm not here to control anything about you. But what I want you to do is be mindful and be cognizant of the fact that your activity, your involvement, excuse me, I'm about to cough. Oh, your activity and your involvement in this society is heavily, first of all, reflective upon who you are. And it's also heavily going to determine what we become as a society and as a culture. If these students are not getting to a point where they're learning the cause and effect relationships of intention and action in this universe, if they don't get it, then we're never going to get anywhere that serves us, that intentionally serves who we are and where we want to be as a culture of people. I see us being unified. I see us claiming our nation. I see us building a future that is economically stable. I see us building a future that is morally stable and sufficient. I see us doing things in the future where we're building on something. And if we're not teaching these children how to do that building process, how to discern, how to look at things and make something out of nothing, you have a story that you can share with your child or the children in your, environment, in your reality. You can go to those children and let them know, hey, this is something that I've learned along the way. Now, I may not be able to show you specifically how I went through it, but I can definitely show you in my actions and the way I live right now, how I got over. How I'm practicing that in my current life. If these children are hearing us saying things, but they're not seeing us act it out, then to them, we are no better than the enemy. If we're just giving them a bunch of mumbo jumbo out of the side of our necks, but then when they look at us, like if you tell a young girl, as a woman, if I went to a young girl and I told her, you don't have to use your body to get money, but then when she sees me, she sees me barely dressed, going in the strip club and stripping. I can't tell that little girl not to do that because she's looking at me doing it. You understand what I'm saying? It's like it's not a thing for you to speak to the children without showing the children. Now, I'm not going to say that on a more casual scale because, of course, you can vocally encourage children. Of course, you can practically and temporarily be an influence on a child. I have been influenced by people that I only met one time, and I didn't get a chance to see how they live their lives, but I was able to be influenced because I was a child that was able to receive the lessons out of life. So as parents, I want us to sit here and talk a little bit about time, because listen, what I know about time and observation is that it's invaluable. Time and observation. How do you spend time with your child? How do you observe your child? How well do you know your child? Do you know your child to the point where you only know the type of food they like to eat, where they like to go, the friends they like to hang out with, the things that they want to do in school, the extracurricular type of things that they have going on? How well do you know your child? Because in my mind, what I want to see in my child is I want to see the light inside of my child. And when I'm spending quality time with my baby, what I'm looking for is his light. I'm not looking for necessarily his interests. I'm looking for the light inside of my child. I'm looking for the things that he does and the things that he is, the things that he's looking to become, the behavior that he's displaying as he's growing. I'm looking at the mentalities that he's taking on. I'm looking at the differences in the ways that he acts because, like my baby, he's only 2, he'll be 3 in a few months. But the thing about my child is that when he is watching things like certain shows, I can see him picking up behaviors and mentalities from the shows. And so I'm looking at like, whoa, what are you doing with that? Where did you get that from? And what are you getting ready to do with it? Because I don't like what I see playing out here with that behavior. I don't like what mentality I feel this is getting ready to end up for you. Now, I'm not going to control my child and try to make sure that he never thinks a certain way that I don't agree with, or he never acts a certain way that I don't agree with. But what I'm doing is I'm allowing time to show me who my child is becoming, because I know that who he is becoming is heavily reflecting upon me. And if there's anything I can do to teach and reteach my child on a regular basis, I'm going to do that. And the way that you do that in a way that's calibrated is to actually watch the child, watch them, observe them over time, see how the behaviors evolve, see how the maturity develops, see how the immaturity, might not be developing. Let's just see how we are actually moving into the future. What is your child aspiring to? Now, I understand that can get a little bit practical because children change. They're always into something different. The trends come and go, but still, there are things that your child has innately inside of them as an area of interest. And those things are the things that need to be paid attention to. Like, let's just say, for example, your child is really good in school. They might be good at all of the general subjects that you give them because they're just genuinely, smart. But there are going to be things that your child goes above and beyond in that particular area because they just love it. They just like it. They just feel like, oh my God, I'm so at home with this topic. I'm so in the zone when I'm reading this type of book, or I'm so in the zone when I'm talking, or I'm so in the zone when I'm jumping around and playing and flipping all over the place. Like, if your child naturally takes to something, not something that you suggested, not something that the school wanted to see them do, not something that all their other friends is doing, but something that the child is showing as a natural inclination. For me, I've always been a talker. Always. I have always been a huge talker. And so I feel like my destiny is just now manifesting because look at what I'm doing. I mean, my goals in life and my career are to use my natural inclination to talk. Now, if anybody knows me, they will tell you that is something that I have gone over and above and beyond the necessary requirements when it comes to talking, because I love it. I love to freaking talk. I love it. When I'm talking, I feel like I'm being myself. I feel like I'm expressing. I feel like I'm sharing. I feel like I'm giving. I feel all these positive things happening inside of me when I am speaking. I also feel like speaking, because I'm a great speaker, I'm also a great listener. And so when I'm listening as I'm speaking or as I'm delivering messages, I also feel like I'm receiving quite a bit. When I'm talking to you guys, half of the time I'm learning things from my own soul. Most of the time, 85-90% of the times when I'm talking to y'all, my spirit is giving me something that I needed to hear. Okay? And I'm gonna tell you, Romaine, no. no. Romaine, first of all, I gotta give a shout out to Romaine, y'all. Romaine Loudon on here. This is a faithful listener and participant in this Entertain the Thought podcast. And I have to tell you, I love you, Romaine. I have to give you all my love and respect because, like I said, this is something I love to do. And for you to receive it as well as you do, God, I couldn't ask for more. But to answer your question, I'm going to say no. They did not nurture my talking. My family and friends alike have all been like, girl. They have been like, girl, shut up. I mean, I'm glad that I could laugh that off because it does not feel good when somebody treats you like that when you're just trying to do what you love. Excuse me. Damn, I'm so congested. But it does hurt when you have a person that is supposed to love you and accept you for who you are. I feel good that I can laugh that off right now because I mean, I have never considered not being a talker. I have never cared who liked it and who didn't. First of all, because I don't feel the ability to control it. I don't think that there's ever going to be a time where I can control my mouth. There's a spirit inside of me that is just as rebellious as I am. And when she got something to say, me, myself, and I cannot stop her. She's going to talk. And so, I mean, I've always just been like, I hate that y'all don't like the fact that I talk, but I talk. And I'm not asking for permission to talk. I'm simply talking. So, I believe that that's been very purposeful in my life, though, and I believe in divine timing and divine guidance, because if I had been silenced, look at what would have been silenced coming out of my soul and my spirit. I would not be able to bless my own people if I would have allowed myself to be torn down in such a way where my passion for life itself could be taken from me just by the likes or dislikes of another person. So even though they were not nurturing me at all, I nurtured myself. I accepted myself, and I always have. I've always been a free thinker thanks to my mother, and whatever I felt was necessary in me delivering my messages, even if I didn't necessarily have something valuable, I never allowed myself to be shut up or shut down. And I don't think I ever will. I think that what's been happening in my life now, though, is that instead of me saying, Sharice, you should not talk anymore because people don't like you to talk, what I have been doing is learning to refine my skills for speaking, because I first of all had to identify as a child that speaking was a skill in the first place, and that everybody is not good at articulating messages and speaking in such a way that they can be well understood, and that messages can be conveyed by something that's called brain coupling. So I allowed myself to be humble in that I was able to be humble. And thank you, by the way. I appreciate that. Is it Wale? I appreciate that. I think it's Ronnie. What's your name? But anyway, I appreciate that. I'll be looking for the video. But I think that because I allowed myself to be humble, and I allowed myself to recognize that people probably didn't like my speaking, not because I was not good at it or not because I needed to really shut up, but the reason why was because I wasn't refined. I had not been treating my speaking like a skill. I was treating it like a hobby. And so the thing, or just something that was a pastime, or me just getting something off my chest. But then I had to get to a point where I was like, oh no, this is an actual skill. This is actually something that can be built. This is something that can be used as a tool for you to live your entire life. So if you love it, then you need to develop it. You need to nurture yourself. You need to start reading books. You need to start getting more avid on what it means to read and comprehend and to listen. What are the what do you call it? An accoutrement? What are the accoutrements of speaking? I might be using that word wrong, but I think I got it right. Like an accessory. What are the things that accompany with your speaking? And if you're going to be, like I said, a good speaker, you have to be a good listener. You have to be a person who connects the dots well. You have to be a researcher. You have to be the person who is going to put insight into your speaking. You cannot just fly off the handle with anything. You have to have something in the message. And so these were lessons that I had to begin teaching myself out of love for myself, because I didn't want to continue being rejected. I didn't want to continue having people shutting me up and shutting me out. So I had to learn, well, Sharice, what are you going to do? You have to start coming at these people with something that they're going to receive, and in a way that they can receive it. And what I'm telling you as a parent, and for you that are parents, I need you to know that these kids, they don't need to be shut up or shut down. Whatever it is that they're wanting to do and that they are relentless at it. Come on, there are some children where you just can't get them to stop. They are relentless. That's their spirit telling you, this is who I am. I am going to be relentless. There is going to be something that you're not going to stop me from doing. But how about you invest in me? If you know that I'm going to talk your goddamn head off or talk until I'm blue in the face, how about you stop for a second and listen to me? Help me build on my thoughts. Help me get it off my chest. Help me develop what I have to say. Help me be who I am. These kids are not going to stop being who they are. They're individuals and they're free, and they know that. And so these children are looking for us to simply say, I accept you for who you are. Yes, you got crazy colors in your hair. Yes, you have tattoos all over your face and piercings all in your face. Yes, you have your pants hanging off the back of your ass. Yes, you're barely clothed. Yes, you listen to music that I don't know. Yes, you're doing all these things I don't agree with. But I still love you. I still accept you. I still believe in you. I still know that you have something inside of you that is going to help me in the future. If the people in my past were successful at shutting me down, they would never be able to appreciate or enjoy the fruits that are going to come out of my spirit, that are coming out of my spirit right now. If they had been successful in telling me that I need to sit down and shut up and retreat into myself as an introvert, if they were successful in doing that based on what they thought about me without really knowing me first, look at the way the future would be dampened. Look at how many people would not be enlightened or would not be encouraged because of the words that come out of my mouth. Nobody in my family ever said, well, Sharice, since you like to talk so much, why don't you be a motivational speaker? Why don't you motivate people instead of talking about, what you had for lunch or who aggravated you at school today or at your job or whatever? Nobody ever took the time to accept that I was a talker and then help me to become better. They only wanted to shut me down and shut me up so that I could become what they wanted or what they expected or what they felt like approving of, regardless of what I wanted, regardless of who I am. They just wanted what they wanted. And so this is where I believe we have tragedies going on across this nation, across this Black nation. We are too heavily concerned about selfish desires. What is it that we want for ourselves and all this other stuff? Look around you. There's light and resources in everyone, even those children that are out there looking lost. And I want you to know that those children, if they look lost, number one, is because they probably are. And if they are lost, it's because we have not shown them the way. We have not been effective in our communications with them. We have not been effective in the way we are raising our future. We cannot continue to have these children thinking that, you can just find your way in life. There's fast money out here. All you got to do is grind and work hard. We give them all these generalized notions about what life is, about what society is. We have to stop that because these kids have to know you are in a place where your thoughts and your energy and your intentions will be misconstrued. It will be taken advantage of. People will run your ass into the motherfucking ground. Do you hear me? People will run you into the ground if you don't stand up for yourself. If you don't know how to ethically and consciously rebel against the ideas that people are trying to impose on your mentality. Our children need to know how to think and not what to think. I know y'all know I created a training program to teach these children just that, by teaching them the art and science of debate and the scientific method. I have classes that I've developed. It's an 8 round that's online. I've done enrollment for it, but I really am probably going to do my enrollment in a different way. But I want you guys to know that these children need us. They need us to show them examples. They need us to show them pathways to the future. Right now, pathways don't necessarily seem open for our children in a lot of ways. Society will not only run you into the ground, they'll use you up. They'll appropriate you. Like I said earlier, you will show all kinds of promise, all kinds of genius, all kinds of talent, all kinds of everything, light. And what these people will do is they will look at you, they'll scoop you up, and they will they'll take it from you and then throw you away. And I want to say, Romaine, the program is designed for teenagers, but I do have it available for adults because it is a little advanced. The curriculum is advanced. I teach on things like data analytics, where we're able to congregate our research into real ideas, into real thoughts, into real schools of thought. We're looking at how we're turning research into experiments, looking at how we're turning our research into actionable plans internally and externally. The scientific method can be applied internally the same way it can be applied externally. And so I look at these dynamics with students who are fresh in their thinking, younger people, but anybody really, because this, like I said, it's applicable. There's science to it. And the way we teach, the way the program is taught is I'm teaching these students how to do the research internally and externally by way of formulating a scientific method, formulating an hypothesis, a period of observation, testing, and then concluding on that information as it's gathered. It's a little advanced. I think, okay, it depends on the child's mentality. An 11-year-old, I'm not going to put it past him to be able to do that, but I got the age limit at 15 on up because it does get a little extensive. We have theory and some other things like philosophy that's all put into the program, is like jam-packed in there. But what I want to really get across to the child is how to think. I might be able to make some adjustments for younger students, just to kind of, you know how you get an adjustment in your workout. If you're not that strong, you can do modifications. I might be able to come up with modifications for younger students, but right now I have the age at 14 and 15. And so, but the point that I want to make is that is extremely pivotal for these students when they know how to think. When they can say, you know, I don't necessarily like the idea that you're giving me, but I can deconstruct it mentally and spiritually, and I can discern which pieces of it I like for myself and which pieces of it I'm going to discard and which pieces of it I'm going to actually use and put into motion in my life. People can be taught how to do that. Change is a byproduct of practice. When you're practicing something, change occurs. Okay? You get better. And becoming better is a change. And so what I want to do for these students is to get them to understand how to create change by way of questioning and programming themselves intentionally to be a certain way by practicing a certain way. Mental practice and physical practice is extremely important for these children. If you want the child to learn a certain way, act a certain way, be a certain way, they have to practice a certain way, and they have to observe a certain way. They don't need to be told as much as they need to see. They need to be able to observe. Okay? Y'all, this lipstick is getting on my doggone nerves. I can't get it to go right. What is it doing? It's just so like caked up. Anyway, the students, I really want you to think heavily about the behaviors that you see in your children, especially if they're getting older. And I want you to think about the root of those behaviors. I want you to dig deeply into what your child has become, even especially if they're older. What are they becoming? What kind of behavior are they displaying to you? And I want you to think about, where is it coming from? Is it nature or is it nurture? Is it coming from how you've raised them in your household, or is it coming from how society has raised them in culture? I want you to look at how these students are producing fruit of their tree. And if you like the fruit and you feel like it's sweet, then go ahead and allow it to develop into a ripe fruit. But if you don't like the way that fruit is developing, if it looks off, if it looks poisoned, if it looks, like it's been full of, what you call those things, pesticides and all that crap, I want you to get into a mode of thinking as a parent where you are programming your child. You are causing your child to think way. How are you going to do that? You're programming your child by getting them to see from a different perspective. When you can tell your child stories, like I said, from the past, tell your story, your story. Tell stories of other people. Introduce your child to things. Introduce your child to different concepts, because when they can get the concept, that might be all they need to go ahead and employ the action, employ the practice to get them to the change. If they are looking for a change, somebody, either them or you, have to be able to program them by giving them a shift in the paradigm. Give them a shift in their perspective. Show them. And sometimes showing them doesn't necessarily have to be your actions. Showing a child can be showing them the way mentally. I say this a lot, but I'm telling you, coupling, brain coupling is a thing. Brain coupling is a phenomenon where I can say something to you. I can start off at the depth of a thing. I can start off deep inside of the thing. And then I can bring you all the way to the surface pathologically. I can give you the depth of it, and then I can tell you the practical parts of it. I can give you the spiritual reasons, and then I can give you the carnal, worldly reasons as to why I want you to change your shift your perceptions and change your thinking. So when we are engaging with our children, let's do that consciously. Let's do that to a point where we know that we're implanting seeds in the psyche of our children. So if I tell you, baby, it ain't nothing wrong with you rebelling. You can rebel all you want. But I'm going to go to the root of rebellion. And I'm going to tell you why you need to practically rebel in this way. I'm going to go to the root of what rebellion is, which is deconstruction. And I'm going to tell you, whenever you're tearing something down, your responsibility is to build something back up. If you're going to take, then you must give. We're going to give these children the concept of life. And so when they're going about it, they know better how to execute. They know better how to say, oh, I'm rebelling, but I'm rebelling for the benefit of the future. I'm rebelling because I want to see this occur. I'm rebelling because I'm about to tear this shit apart. And then I'm going to give you back something beautiful with the pieces that I took from that BS that I just tore down. But we have to tell these children, family first. I know that people, we all like to say your skin folk ain't your kinfolk all the time. But in this case, as far as the future is concerned, your skin folk is your kinfolk. Okay? We are a nation of people. And we have very, very similar needs. So when my child is going out into society tearing shit up, you better believe he's not tearing up home. He's not shitting where he sleep. You understand? Oh, don't tell me that. Oh! Don't tell me that, Tyrone. Because I'm about to call on Tyrone. Don't play with me. Y'all about to get me to acting crazy up in here. But like I said, I want our children to know that when we are rebelling in society, when we're rebelling in society, we're not rebelling so that we can be cute. We're not rebelling so that we can get attention. We're not rebelling so that we can just be destructive. Self-destruction is a sign of disease and dysfunction. We don't want that. We want to teach our children that if you're going to rebel, baby, like I said, when my son go into this, in this society and he start tearing stuff down, you better get excited. When my son decide that he want to tear something up, My baby is futuristic already. I'm telling you. He gonna watch me tearing some stuff up. But when my baby starts to tear stuff up in this society, y'all better get excited. You better perk up. Because when he tears it down, he gonna build it back up. Oh, yes, he will. Because mama gonna show him the way. You're not tearing down to be destructive, boo. You're not tearing down to destroy anything. What you're doing is you are clearing the way for something beautiful to be presented to whatever it was that you just tore down. Just like them people went and demolished them Twin Towers. I am not going to call it no plane attack. Those buildings were professionally demolished. What they did, they rebuilt a memorial in the place of that. They didn't tear it down just because they wanted to see an empty space right there. They tore it down because they were doing something. Okay. And they had a purpose as to why they were doing that. No, their purposes were not as wholesome and enlightened, okay, and conscious as what my baby will do, thankfully. But, what happened was the same concept. That my child, when I know he has something on his mind, when he has something going on in that heart of his, that those two things are going to work together, his mind and his heart, for the benefit of his people. And even maybe for the benefit of the rest of the world. But I will be teaching him family first. We're looking at our needs in our community first. And if we're going to tear down a social structure that has infiltrated our community, such as government aid, for example, I would want my baby to tear that to shreds so that we can be providers of our assistance to our own people. I'm not going to continue to allow my people to be destroyed because they're looking for someone to meet their needs. And just so happens that the person that's meeting their needs is also slipping poison. It's also slipping cyanide in their tea. You understand? The people that we have our hands out to help us. They're slapping our hands. They might be giving you free money, but they also chopping your hand off at the same time. You can put the hand out for the money, but what good is it if the hand get chopped off as soon as you get the money? We're not looking for that type of assistance in our community. We're not looking for that kind of help in our community. Who is that helping? Who is that helping? Nobody. So what do? We have to tear down the social structures that are tearing us down. Okay? We have to tear down the ideals of what is going to govern and assist and aid us so that we can rebuild those ideas. Who are we looking to for help? I think our children are at a point where they know better. I think our children are fed up. I think these teenagers especially are fed up with the way we as adults have been slow to catch on to what's been going on and what to do about it. These children are not getting the answers that they need. They're not getting the answers they need. And it's a tragedy to me because we are equipped to give the children the answers if we were humble enough to do so. I believe if we were humble enough to say, hey, listen, this is my story. These are the mistakes I made. These are the things that I did wrong in my past. If my mother wasn't so prideful, always wanting to look perfect in my face when I knew better, I could have had a much better relationship with myself and with her. Yeah, growing. Thank you for that, Timmy. It is about growth. If our children cannot see, like I said, pathologically, how are we producing growth in our lives? How are they going to get it? How are they going to get it if we're not showing them at any point in life that growth is systematic? Growth comes from practice. Growth comes from being able to implement structure, being able to implement order. One of the things I live by in my life now is everything. This comes from the Bible. Everything must be in decency and in order. Come on. These are things we need, an orderly fashion of growth and setting an example for these kids. If they don't see us falling in line, what's her name? Say get information or get information. They go hand in hand. In my mind, as we pass on information from our past, that is what makes the children get in line, get information. They understand. And when you have the ability to share unified thought, That's when you get unified action. When you can present unified ideas, that's when you get unified action. When you can, in uniform, change perceptions, shed light on information, shed light on situations. That's when change begins to occur. That's when we begin to see the actions leading into the change, the practice leading into the change. If I tell you that I'm giving you a drink that is poisoned, you're going to act on that because you got new information that tells you this is poisonous. You're going to act on that. What are you going to do? Pour it out, push it away. You're not going to put it in your mouth. That's to be debated because some people will put poison in their mouth, but I'm just saying, y'all know what I'm talking about. Oh shit. Oh my God. I got to get this congestion out of me. My child got a cold and I've been congested ever since. He passed it to me. And if for some reason, I don't care how much tea or whatever else medicine I take, I got Vicks Vapor Rub, all kind of stuff coming around. I can't get rid of it. But that's a beautiful point. I have to talk about that because I also wanted to talk about influence. And I mentioned it briefly when I said programming and reprogramming our children, but influence is extremely heavily important. So I'm going to read this comment real quick from my good friend Tim. He said, absolutely, it's just what they see. The people on TV and the internet, it's not what we saw. Somehow that must change. And I'm going to tell you, somebody told me back in the day, when your child come home from whatever, when they went over their friend's house, they was watching some new program on TV, doing whatever, went to a party, went to school, especially every day when they go to school. It would behoove the parent to sit that child down when they come back in your house. Sit them down and talk to them about what their experience was today. What did they learn today? I'm telling you, these kids are out here on a learning expedition every single day. They're picking up new ideas, new perceptions. If you do not, first of all of that, what I just said, examples, perceptions, ideas, all those things are called programming. Once it's implanted in their head, it's in there. Once it's been brought into their awareness, it's in there. That's called an influence. It's mind control. And no, it's the way that their thoughts are being shaped and formed, which is going to shape and form their reality and their images of themselves. So if we are allowing our children to go out into the world, in which we should, allow them to go out and experience the full spectrum of life. Let them see it all. Let them touch it all. Let them experience it all. So that when they come back home, sit them down and talk to that child and say, hey, listen, hey, what did you learn today? Because whatever you learned that needs to be shifted back into the proper perspective, that's my job. And your mama got you, okay? If you learn something that I don't like right now, my baby's only 2. My son be watching this doggone, what was it? Daniel Tiger that he was watching. I had to turn Daniel Tiger ass off. Why? Because he was making my baby into a crybaby. My baby, every time something was going on, he was crying, and it sounded just like damn Daniel Tiger. I was like, okay, no more Daniel Tiger. Turn that shit off. Because I could tell how Daniel Tiger's ideas, how his actions, how his behavior was coming down on the psyche of my 2-year-old. I'm not going to allow it to happen. My baby has to be programmed. And I have to be responsible for the programming of his mind. I have to be responsible for the way he thinks life is, for the way he thinks he is, for the way he thinks. I got to be responsible for that. If he thinks reality is every time I cry, is somebody going to give me something? That's not going to fly. Crying is not going to get you no damn where, little boy. I don't care if you're 2 and you're still cute. My baby's so cute. That's not going to help you. Now he done got to the point where he uses his cuteness on me, where he's not crying anymore, but he'll go, Mommy, can I have some more? Please. That's exactly how he does me, y'all. And I just be like, how can I say no to this? I have to figure out a new defense. But I want you exactly. And this is what I mean, Tyrone. I can't have my baby going down like that. I cannot have my baby going down like that. My son is going to be a strong ass black man if I got to die trying. He is not getting ready to be out here looking at the world like he has no power. There are so many men out here that could be soldiers on the motherfucking battlefield. I'm trying to stop cursing as much, y'all. I'm trying to stop at least the F-bombs. But I'm telling you, my baby is going to know what it means to be a spiritual warrior, and for him to be very strong and alert and awake at his gates. And I think I did an episode about that before, being awake at your damn gates, meaning protecting the things that you're consuming spiritually so that you can control what you're giving spiritually. If you're not controlling what you're consuming, then you're not controlling what you're expelling or what you're expressing out of your soul. And so I want all of us to be very conscious and make conscious, intentional efforts to reprogram our children. If your child leaves your house, when he or she comes back, sit them down and talk to them about what they picked up when they went out there. I want you to have in your mind that your child is like a big old ball of glue, or like a big magnet, or like a big ball of tape, that when they go out in the world, stuff is sticking on them. Stuff is getting on them. And when they come home, they dirty. You have no idea what got on your child. You have no idea what spirits entered into their mind, into their psyche. You need to go into your child's mind, okay? And sit down, have a seat with your baby, and figure out what was it that got on them when they was out there. Because I don't know if you know, but this spiritual war is serious out here. This spiritual war is serious out here. Every time they go into this world, they picking up ideas about who they are. Like I said, about how they look at themselves, about their self-worth, about what they can accomplish, about what they can aspire to, about what they can be. You got to program your child to what you know about your child, not about what society says. Don't let society have your baby's mind. That's not how we getting ready to do this. What we're going to do is intentionally create soldiers. We're going to intentionally create children that are ethically rebellious, and that they know we're living in an environment that is toxic. And if you want to get away from this toxicity, rebellion is going to be your best friend, because you're rebelling against a toxic nature. You're rebelling against the toxic material that's infiltrating your psyche and tearing you down from the inside out. We live in a system of self-destruction. It's happening systematically. It's not by accident. This is a system that has been purposefully and intentionally created for the self-destruction of our people. And like I said, this was been done by somebody else for us to self-destruct. Somebody else gave us the pattern for self-destruction while they're following our model for enlightenment. Did you hear what I just said? Somebody else is out there being edified in their spiritual journey because they're following our rules that we gave to them in the past. Now, what's happening is they decided to turn that against us, and now they done set up a new system for us to become a part of that they don't even participate in. Caucasians don't participate in the mindlessness of that we're a part of in our society. Caucasians don't, well, I'm going to correct that, because there are some Caucasians, but the ones who set up those systems, they do not participate in it. They do not participate in the things that they have perpetuated against society. They know that the technology is bad. They know the food is bad. They know the pharmaceuticals are bad. They know that education is tainted and perverted. They know that the health industry is set up for you to just basically remain a sick patient. They know that. So what do? They keep themselves healthy. They send their children to private schools. They don't overly spend their money. They participate in the economy and enterprise. They create businesses instead of working for businesses. You understand what I'm saying? They know the model that we gave them back in the day when we were on top and we were teaching across the globe to every other civilization on the face of this planet. They took that model and ran with it. And they ran with it, and now they're in control of what we were once in control of, because they flipped the switch on our asses. And we somehow, well, I know how, but we became ignorant by force. We became ignorant by force. But what I'm saying to you is that right now, even though we became ignorant by force, there's no way that we're going to come out of the ignorance without force. Do you get that? Coming out of ignorance is going to take work. You're going to have to force yourself out of ignorance, because nobody is going to make you enlightened on your own. You're going to have to work for that. You're going to have to create that. And I agree with you, Timmy. Everybody does participate in something. I do agree with that. Some form of self-destruction. But on a large level, on a mass level, I believe there are groups of people who do not participate in the self-destructive ways that we are conditioned to participate in them in. Like, for example, that group of people who created the systems, they probably only dibble and dabble in it a little bit, the self-destruction. They just keep it, in moderation. But the self-destruction for the masses is in great toxic amounts. We're participating in self-destruction in destructive, levels. We're having to deal with toxicity coming from, coming from every direction. That's something that we have to be cognizant. We have to be mindful of that. If we could reduce the level of toxicities, and I believe we are, our people are getting better. We're learning how to take care of ourselves, learning how to protect our energy, learning how to set boundaries, learning how to, drop things that are no longer serving us in our community. We're learning how to do that. But at the same time, we have a lot more work to do than what our enemies might have to do. And we have to do it by intention. We cannot sit around waiting for somebody to show us how to pick ourselves up out of the dirt, because we were put in the dirt on purpose. And I want you to know that as light beings, us being in the dirt is a very beautiful thing, because we're seeds. So you plant me in the dirt, I'm just going to grow. And you don't even have to water me. I'm a self-watering plant. When you put me in the darkness, baby, I'm going to water myself, because I know that I got to come up out of there. I know that I have to spring up out of this dirt. And if I'm going to be in the dirt and I'm conscious, I know that I'm in the dirt. I know that I'm growing. I know that I'm watering myself. I'm very aware. You understand? So children can't be any different. We can't hold them to any other standard. We have to let them know, baby, you are in darkness. You're in a dark society. You're in a dark place. And you need to be very aware of just how dark it can be. These people hate you. And they have systems that allow them to express their hate against you. We don't have any systems where we can express hate against our enemies. I don't think we need any. But we do need systems where we can express love for ourselves. I don't need no system to hate nobody. I need a system to love myself, whether that be a personal system that I've created or whether it be social systems that have been constructed for my benefit. But I still know that we have to be on a level of collective building, collective thought, collective programming. We have to do this together. And I also want us to stop, being upset when somebody wants to correct our child. You know, it takes a village to raise a child. Black women, my sisters, and my brothers, and some of y'all out there too, especially my sisters though, stop getting angry when somebody trying to correct your child. Stop. Unless they doing it in a way, or they doing it for something that, like, let's just say you're trying to program your child, and then they come and they trying to, like, they think that they correcting the child, but they really just undoing your programming. Yeah. But if somebody wants to come to your child and give your child a wholesome lesson, don't be like, that's my child. Don't talk to my child like that. That's my baby. You ain't get birth. Stop. It takes a village. It takes a village. We was at a playground one time, me and my sister-in-law, we had our children out there, and one of the other kids didn't want to share some of the equipment on a public ass playground. So my sister-in-law was like, okay, baby, you got to share with everybody. You've been on there for a while. Let the other kids come and get a chance. And the mother had the nerve to have an attitude with my sister-in-law. That's not your baby. My sister-in-law was like, yes, it is. Because if you was to get struck by lightning and dead and gone right now, I would take care of your child. I would take your child home with me and feed your baby. I would make sure your child got home to other family members safely. I would make sure that your child didn't get hurt out here. I would make sure that somebody wasn't out here trying to snatch your child. So yes, your child is mine. And if your child is doing something that I see that needs to be corrected, and it's ethical, and it's going to do your child justice in their life to learn this, I'm getting ready to give it to your child. And you're going to deal with it. So let's not be ignorant anymore. Let's allow ourselves to grow. Let's allow ourselves to put action to these words that we keep on giving to these kids. Let's allow ourselves to be an example. Okay? My time is out, y'all. I've been on here for an hour. I love y'all, and I'm out. I love you so much. Oh, my God. I'll holler at y'all, man. Wait, I don't know how to get up out of here. I don't know how to get out my...